EA is selling for $55 billion. The creator of Battlefield, FIFA, and of course our beloved Need for Speed. And that's why this is kind of important. I need to talk about it. This would make it the second biggest gaming acquisition ever. 55 billion. The Activision Blizzard one was more like 69 million. I mean, debatable whether these companies are worth this value, but hey, let's pretend it is for the sake of EA, right? I was already in the process of making a second channel video about this topic because there's quite a lot to discuss here, and there's both goodness and scariness that we basically need to digest. And I'm here to try and make it as clear as possible. We're going to talk about who is buying EA and what this means, because they're doing it a bit differently, going from publicly listed to private. So we've got three named parties in this acquisition of EA. And the first one, which a lot of people are talking about, is the Saudi Arabia Sovereign Fund. Now, this is Saudi money, the Saudi oil money that you obviously know quite well. They're increasingly trying to be an active player and a bigger player in multiple industries, mostly in entertainment, media, and games. Then we've got Silver Lake, which is a private equity firm, and the Affinity Partners. That's also an investment fund backed by the Sovereign Fund. Yeah, it was founded in 2021, led by Jared Kushner. That is Donald Trump's son-in-law and former senior White House advisor. Take that as you will, is what I'll say there. So the Silver Lake intent is to basically buy a company, make it more profitable, usually by increasing the profits, increasing the market share, and trimming off the fat, and then either selling it for more money or making it public. Now, this would actually maybe be the best path than it going public again, because the idea there, well, it's not to strip it out of its soul. Silver Lake is a private equity firm with a stake in Unity for one, and Unity, they may have recently tried to squeeze the developers dry, but they were managed to be bullied and put back in their place, so that's a good sign. There's also Dell that they put money into, the PC maker, so that one's a little bit, yeah, it's an investment firm. They're trying to make some money. So the Saudi fund is a little bit different because the intent isn't just to, obviously it's always to make money. That's the idea, is why you would buy a company. But as a nation, you have a bit of a different kind of direction. They apparently have their biggest stake, which is 36 billion to finance the deal. And the intent for a state to control a big media piece like this is to not only make money, but influence, to obviously diversify from their general just oil money, because they know realistically oil is a limited resource and will one day run out. They also want to change public perception. That's a huge thing for them, because why would you not want to make it look like this is the best place on earth? Come and do business here. Come and make games here. The Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia already owns 10% of EA as it is. This is kind of been happening in the background. Now, within the gaming sphere, this is one of the first times for something like this to happen. This is different. This is not the normal situation where, for example, Xbox bought Activision for 69 billion, and the idea was that they were going to keep them and take their games and engulf them into Xbox. And they did end up having layoffs when they said they weren't going to have layoffs, so trust everything very, very mildly is the way I'd say it. But the way this is different is they're taking them private. Now, that means a significant shift in how they kind of operate as a company. Look, I'm no expert here, but this is something that could affect Need for Speed, and that's the main reason we need to talk about this. So obviously, to the best of my knowledge, the main difference between the two is significant. There's no getting around it. Private equity is a terrifying word. It should scare you to the bone. It's part of why your eggs cost $20. It's part of why you could never buy a house. Probably. It is a system we must seek to topple as a collective, rather than blaming our neighbors. Anyway, the reason the format changes here is because normally a publicly listed company is something that you could just go on an app or a website, buy shares of, and partake in kind of the controlling of that company. It's a way that, well, most of your retirement money goes towards, not EA specifically, but this is what happens. You invest into a stock that you think is going to do better, and you hope it does better, and you can, if you have a significant portion of that company, push them to do certain things and push them to be better to basically return your investment. That stock is essentially you giving them money to finance what they want, but you get to shift it because you're giving them the money. It's got positives and negatives. Negative being they have to report to all their shareholders every quarter. And that is infuriating if you are a company that is, well, making video games or movies or entertainment pieces that take, let's say, years to develop. If you're a company that makes chocolate bars and you're like, yeah, this week we're going to release a new chocolate bar, therefore it's going to be more chocolate bars. There's people who are going to buy more chocolate. You're like, yay, congratulate, that's amazing, fantastic. But if you go, we're going to make Battlefield and it's going to take us 6 years, they're going to be like, that's not good enough. You need something that you need live service, microtransactions, make us money now. This is what changes when you go private. Now, private is a little different. There's a few kind of different cases. You could be, I own a private company, for example. My company answers to absolutely no one but me and the tax man. But in this situation, they're going to be held by investment firms that are quite frankly seeking to make more money. I realized that was a drift zone as I did it. It does technically alleviate some pressures of the normal operation of a company. When you, for example, have to report every quarter and you have to make profit every quarter, you have to make a return on investment short term for this company constantly. This means they can take a step back and create bigger long-term projects like Battlefield without the pressures of having to say, we're making you money every quarter. This time, you're kind of focusing on the longer term, the bigger picture. In the end, they want to sell the company, or in the end, they want to make it public again with a higher value. They just want their money back. Is quite frankly the way it is. Again, I'm not saying this is all good. There's definitely some negatives in here, but it is definitely an interesting case that we're going to see develop over the time, because it could be that this is absolutely the best route that EA could have gone. Because ultimately, in the end, it wasn't really going fantastically. It was a little rough spot, obviously. Now, the question, obviously, I wanted to know, the reason why I researched all of this is, what does this mean for Need for Speed? Oh, that front wheel is so sick. I love that. That looks so good. Okay, sorry, I'm distracted. Go on. Chase me, buddy. Oh, crap. So, negatives. We are now being directed completely. This big behemoth of the gaming industry is being steered and driven by people that don't know the gaming industry very well. The reality is they're looking to make money, and just kind of like the EA Codemasters acquisition, they've got their mind set on what they want to see, and realistically, they're trying to go after FIFA, F1, the sports category of games that quite honestly make so much money, guaranteed money, and of course a little bit of Battlefield as well. So that does give me hope because of the Battlefield kind of segment. But it means that we could have Need for Speed become Forza Horizon, because they're like, yeah, Forza Horizon does well, so just do that, which means we've got 3 Forza Horizon games at least. And as I said, they're mostly going to be focused on putting most of their money and effort and time into the EAFCs, the F1s, the sports games. But let's go to the positives, because this is obviously what you want to hear. So I hit you with the punch in the gut, but then I'm going to be like, oh, the new long-term focus could be really, really good for bringing back a Need for Speed title. I mean, you got to realize... Thanks, mate. I'm just going to go up the stairs, mate. Cheers, lad. They get to focus on quality rather than the quantity. This gaming industry has changed. We used to get games every year, so it was quite easy for them to report quarterly when a game came out every pissing year. But that doesn't work for a lot of entertainment products these days, just the kind of renewable sports ones that you just change the name of some fella that got married. I don't know. Now, what it does seem like is that companies can be bullied a little bit easier when they're private, based on what I've seen. It's happened. We bullied Unity as a collective back into their place because there's less people to think about, and realistically the Saudi fund is trying to look good, not only just make money. They're gonna do things that we bully them to do a bit quicker than the public, because the public generally don't care. They just want to make money. Not to say these don't want to make money, but you get the idea. The other positive to think about is that we know Need for Speed can be developed by a smaller, streamlined studio. It doesn't have to be a massive, big project like that of Battlefield. If Battlefield failed, that everyone would be gutted. That would be very, very obvious, but doesn't look like it's going to be the case. It's going to be probably the most successful Battlefield game in a while. But what we're going to hope is Need for Speed does the same, but with a slimmed down team. And I think, to be honest, from what I have seen with games, now they've got Unbound to build on top of, and what they did on those updates, it kind of makes me think, I think they could do it. They should do it. Smaller team, focused in, spend a bit longer. We got a good Need for Speed. Bro, I've been driving like 2 miles an hour. You guys suck. We need the heat police back. And the final one is that they're going to be looking to diversify. That is kind of the intent of the whole acquisition, primarily focused with the Saudi fund. They're trying to diversify their portfolio. And whether that means we'll get Need for Speed Hajwala, maybe. But nonetheless, we'll get Need for Speed. Where it does leave me is skeptical. But I'm going to be honest, I was kind of skeptical position-wise with Need for Speed to begin with. There's now just new factors that once again kind of muddy the water. We don't know what's going to happen. The acquisition doesn't complete until 2027. And so what I'm hoping is that realistically by then, Need for Speed is already going to be well into the development. I mean, they've got the idea of what they need to do going forward. So now it's just about acting on it. And right now they were struggling because they couldn't get the people involved. But hey, maybe we'll get a new developer, a new studio, because the intent, as I said, is to create a hub with Saudis to basically create the next generation of games. So if they can be like, yeah, let's start with the core team in Need for Speed, build it up and hire in Saudi, hire in Canada, hire in America. If anything, this grows my confidence a little bit because this is definitely a unique route for this industry and I'm kind of curious what's going to come of it. The prospect of a longer term project for Need for Speed is pretty exciting. The last time they took a little bit of time, we got 2015. I say a little bit of time, that was 2 years. So technically Unbound was also good. Moving on, but going from that short-term focus to going to long-term, maybe a couple of games a generation, 3 games a generation for Need for Speed, this could be interesting. Let me know your thoughts.